Good evening, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking Philly Sports with Matty B program here on the edge of phillysports.com. And with your boy Matty B, it is Tuesday, April the 18th, 2023. It is 9 p.m., and you're watching EOP. So that's right. You do the math. We're together again, and it's great to be back. I've been gone for a little bit. I didn't have a show last week. I was on vacation. Yes, I have the opportunity to rest and recharge and kind of step away for a while. And I was gone for a week, but now I'm back and I'm glad to be back. It was a fun vacation, but it's time to get back to it. And then it's the perfect time to get back to it because once again, the city of Philadelphia does not come short with things to talk about on the local sports scene. And tonight we're going to get into a few things because there's a few things to talk about as always. And I'm glad to be the one to purvey that to you every Tuesday night here at 9 p.m. But before we get started, there is something that I want to pass on a personal note. I'm going to kind of gravitate away from sports for a second. For those of you who don't know, and I'll let you know, about a week ago, I lost a very important part of my life. Actually, it's probably about 10 days ago. My dog. For those of you out there who are pet owners, and I know there's a lot of you out there that know what I'm about to say and have experienced it, but the loss of a pet, of a companion for a long time. I had her for 12 years. Um, she was about 16, I think, when she passed. It's a very emotional, heart wrenching event, and it happened literally the day before I was supposed to go. Actually, it happened the day I was supposed to go on vacation, and all of our plans got altered as we were having to take care of this situation. And um, you know, I dreaded the day. I've always dreaded that day to actually have to be the one to say to another living creature that you know your time is over and you're not going to live anymore. Because I don't agree with that playing God concept. I mean, who the hell made me in charge, right? But for the betterment of the animal at that time, the best decision was made to euthanize my dog and then put her down and lay her to rest and take away the pain that she was in. And she was old and she was getting worse and worse and worse and worse and all that. But it doesn't make it any easier. And it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And it was literally on the heels of me going on vacation. So I went to the airwaves and I posted some things about her, and I said some things and to try to kind of assuage my grief because it was pretty hard. And I was bombarded with a lot of kind words from a lot of people, thoughts and prayers and sentiments of thinking about me. And I want to take this time now to thank you for those kind words because there is nothing like that feeling of losing a pet. And she was more than a pet to me. She was a member of my family, and she was like a child. And I miss her every day. And it was hard the first few days, but obviously with time, I've begun to kind of move on. But I just want to take a couple of minutes and just thank everybody out there for all their kind words as me and my family were both going through that very difficult time last week. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. It meant a lot. So let's get back to why we came here though tonight. All right, let's get back to the sports scene. We have a lot to get into tonight. We got Flyers hockey. That's right. We got some. It's not hockey per se. It's the Flyers in their brain trust today or yesterday executed their exit interviews, and they talked about their expectations for this new season. John Tortorella, Daniel Briere, the players addressed the media. Some players were pretty bitter about some things. Some players were very upset about some things, and all these things were kind of happened, and we're going to break that down. There's just very interesting comments made by the head coach and the GM at the same time about what the future of this team might be. So we're going to get into that. Also, the Phillies, who have gotten off to a very rocky start in 2023, are in action right now, and they're playing better. They've won earlier tonight. They're now 7-10, but we'll get into some of the things about the Phillies as well. And of course, the big story in town is the Jalen Hurts mega contract. The Eagles locking up Jalen Hurts for the next 5 years to be their franchise quarterback. And the question I have is the last time we did this, it didn't quite work out the way we wanted it to. What makes you think it's going to happen now? But we'll get into the Jalen Hurts contract. I might surprise you about my take on all that. But before we do any of that, folks, we have to do with this day in Philadelphia sports history because that's what we do every time or every week on this program at this time. And for today's day in Philadelphia sports, I take you all the way back to April 18th, 1987, and this.
Here's the stretch by Robinson. The 3-0 pitch. Swing a long drive. There it is. Number 500. The career 500th home run for Michael Jack Schmidt. And the Phillies have regained the lead in Pittsburgh. 8-6. And the Phillies dugout comes swarming out to home plate.
Boy, what a time. And what a time to pick for number 500. The whole dugout's out there. You don't see Schmidt get very emotional going around the bases on a home run. He jumped on second with both feet. He banged his fist high around third base. The whole bullpen now is coming out. That is a storybook 500th home run, no doubt about it.
You couldn't hit it in a better spot. 2 outs, down to the last out after coughing up a 5-0 lead. Michael Jack has just hit career 500. And even though the 23,000 plus here at Three Rivers Stadium are disappointed at their home team, they give Mike Schmidt a standing ovation. He had a green light on a 3-0 pitch, and he didn't miss it. Number 500 for Michael Jack, and the Phillies lead 8-6.
It was a fastball, Harry.
All right, yes. Today, back in 1987, Mike Schmidt, his 500th career home run. I remember it well. I remember watching it live. I was in my basement, and the Phillies, as Harry the K there mentioned, were up in that game 5-0, but then found themselves down late in that game in the 9th inning, and it was lost in that whole home run is the fact that that was the home run that took the Phillies ahead 8-6, and then on the victory. So, a milestone home run for the greatest third baseman to ever play here in Philadelphia and the greatest third baseman ever played the game of baseball. Mike Schmidt was, of course, it wasn't just the 500 home run. He was not just a home run hitter. The guy was just everything. Everything. When we needed a player like that, he was our player. What is it? He ended up with 548 career home runs, 10 Gold Gloves, 12 All-Star selections. He won the MVP award 3 times. Obviously, a first ballot Hall of Famer in 1985. Just the greatest Philadelphia Philly ever. And there's going to be obviously there's going to be players that come along, and there have been players that have come along since Schmidt that have captured our hearts. But for me, and a lot of people from my generation who grew up with Mike Schmidt, there was nobody ever better, and no one that's ever going to be as good as he was. And on this day, back in 1987, he hit his 500th home run. It was in Pittsburgh on a I believe it was a Saturday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, so happy Mike Schmidt 500 home run day. That is your day in Philadelphia sports history. Brought to you by the good people here at Talking Philly Sports with Matty B. Now, let's kind of turn the page and let's get into some Flyers hockey because I got to comment on a few things because what was said yesterday during the GM and the head coach's exit press conferences as they prepare to get this thing going in I think we're back. Okay, I'm sorry about that. I guess we had some technical difficulties, but I think we're good. I think we're back on. I don't know if all right. Anyway, we are back, and I want to apologize for all that, but here we are. As I was saying about the Flyers, a lot of these conversations and a lot of these press conferences, they are not necessarily designed to give you what is up about the team. It's more to give you a sense of you know, a sense of hope. And Danny Briere, to his credit, really is not providing that. I mean, he's providing a sense of hope, but he's also providing a sense of reality. And it's been a very welcomed approach on how this team is being run now versus to how it was being run in the very near past or very recent past. And same thing with the head coach. And let's get right into John Tortorella's. We'll get right into John Tortorella's press conference first. Big time on slapping the backs of a lot of his younger players, saying that was probably the best part of the season. It wasn't necessarily the wins or the losses or or any of that, but it was the play of some of the kids, as he says. He saw a lot of growth from those young players throughout the season. Certain players took on roles that they hadn't done before. Certain players took on minutes that they had not done before. So Tortorella praising that and giving a kudos to those players that were on board and taking everything that was being given to them and running with it, so to speak. But then again, he was also very direct that there are players currently on this team. Now, he didn't mention names, but pretty easy, I think, to kind of pinpoint who he's talking about, that apparently are not along for the ride and have had issues with being accountable for their actions and have had issues of being coached, being maybe told that they weren't as good as they thought they were, or being told that they're not doing everything that they can do for this team his way or the way of the team or the betterment of the team. And that those individuals will probably not be around next season, which again is not typically something you hear during an exit press conference. You hear more of, this is what happened. We had our ups and downs, but we're looking forward to the future. But this was more that and some reality sprinkled in. So it was very telling. It was very informative, and it was also very expectation management for me, because I think next season, and a lot of people are wondering what next season is going to be like. And I'm going to go to Danny Barrier's comments right now. Is that the team, if he is the GM or if he's involved in the GM process, which I think he'll be, even if he is still the assistant GM and they hire somebody new, the direction that this team wants to go right now is basically subtraction through, or addition through subtraction. They're going to jettison some players, but they're not necessarily going to bring some players here. Now, they're going to field a team, and they're going to field a team that's hopefully competitive, but it's going to be younger, as what John Tortorella wants. He wants a younger team than he had this year. He wants even younger players to play here, which means there's going to be some veterans that are not going to be here next year. And I would imagine those veterans are Kevin Hayes, Ivan Provorov, just off the top of my head, or probably two of the veterans that may not be returning, and maybe possibly Tony DeLangelo. But Danny Briere said that right now he anticipates having him back. But they also said when it comes to signing free agents, and this was one of the problems that kind of, I think, doomed Chuck Fletcher last year, is that he led us to believe that the Flyers would be primetime players in free agency, even though the cap told a different picture, that we were under the impression somehow that Chuck Fletcher was going to wield his magic wand and bring in salary cap relief and bring in some players to put us competitive again, because out of his own mouth was, we lack top end talent. But the problem, of course, was we didn't do that. Well, Danny Briere really kind of set the tone for that right off the bat, basically by saying, we're not going after high price free agents because of the fact that some of these guys just don't fit where we are right now as a team. He's going to sign free agents, he said, but don't be too upset, essentially, if they don't go after the big fish. So very telling, very realistic, very down and dirty exit press conferences from both these individuals. And I think that's a sign of progress, because we were lied to, right? We were lied to. That was one of the biggest things that we had a problem with, was that Chuck Fletcher and Dave Scott lied to us and said that they want to be competitive. They're aggressive. It's a retool, all that nonsense. Dan Breer has been very open and upfront by saying right off the bat that this is not a retool, but this is a rebuild, and that we're going to attack this just like a rebuild. So it's very fresh to hear that. It's very new to hear that. It makes me feel better about the overall direction of this team. As far as next season goes, will it be more of this? Possibly. Will it be a better product? Possibly. I don't know. But the rebuild is ongoing. And that's the biggest story here for me, is that the rebuild has begun officially. And if the management team is on board with it, it's obviously begun officially. So as the Flyers get ready for the first step in all this, which will be the draft, and they will probably fall somewhere in that 5 to 9 range, maybe, picking. Obviously, Connor Bednard will not be available at that spot. So he's not looking like a reality, but you never know. Things could happen. The Flyers could find themselves with that first overall pick. You never know. But yeah, the rebuild is officially on, and the Flyers are officially involved in it. So a very pleasant exit press conference. Yeah, for as pleasant as it can be in the situation that the Flyers find themselves, I thought it was very pleasant. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the honesty. I enjoyed the honesty and the fact that there's certain players, and then of course we heard from certain players too during their exit press conferences. Kevin Hayes being the most notable one, basically saying, "I love it here, but I know I'm not going to be here next year," because I don't think Kevin Hayes and John Tortorella get along. I don't think they do, and I never thought that from day one. Now, obviously, Kevin Hayes was an all-star this year, which to me was, I don't know. I think that was more about having to put somebody on the team from the Flyers than actual Kevin Hayes being an all-star. I don't really buy that he was an all-star. I think he was an all-star because I think the Flyers had to send somebody, right? But then his minutes kind of went off a cliff after the all-star break, and he didn't really see as much time as he saw in the first half for whatever reason. There were some issues with his play. He was benched a few times, healthy scratched a few times. Those were internal issues that he was having with the team. And obviously, if I'm a betting man, he won't be back. Ivan Provorov won't be back as well. Hopefully, and Travis Sanheim will join them on their way out of town, and maybe even Travis or and maybe Joel Farabee if we can get a good enough deal. But I definitely think the team will be younger next year. There will be new free agents here. It's not going to be the marquee players. Jonathan Towles and Patrick Kane are not going to reunite in Philadelphia. That's not happening. So it is what it is. It's going to be built from the draft and built through youth. So, but it was refreshing to finally hear that that's what is happening. Even though we've known that for years and we've speculation and all that, it's been very fresh and refreshing to hear the management team actually say that. So that was what that was your Flyers exit press conference this past week as the offseason began in earnest for the Philadelphia Flyers. And of course, sandwiched in all that, or lost, I should say, in all that, are your Lehigh Valley Phantoms, folks. That's right. So for those of you who don't follow the vaunted AHL, of course, that's the American Hockey League, which serves as the primary feeder league to the National Hockey League. Every team in the American Hockey League is directly affiliated with the team in the NHL. The Flyers being the having their affiliate in Lehigh Valley, playing Allentown, the Phantoms. The Phantoms qualified for the playoffs this year. Yeah, they finished in the 6th position in the Atlantic Division. Now, it's kind of weird how the AHL breaks it down, and I'm going to break it down for you. There's 2 conferences, and there's 2 divisions in each conference, right? And I'll use the East as an example of this. Then the Eastern Conference, you have the Atlantic Division, and you have the Northern Division. Now, the playoffs are a divisional thing. And what I mean by that is each division has a set number of playoff spots available for teams. Now, the numbers are different per division because some divisions are bigger than others because of geographic locations of some of these teams. And I believe in the Atlantic there were 6 playoff spots, and I think there's 9 teams in the Atlantic, and the Phantoms qualified as the 6th. They got in. They're going to be facing off against the Charlotte Checkers, and actually that series began tonight. And for those of you who don't know, this game just came final now. The Phantoms beat the Checkers 4-3. So the first round is a best of 3. And because the Flyers, the Phantoms had to travel to Charlotte because Charlotte's the higher seed, all 3 games are going to be played in Charlotte because of the geographical difference between the two and the traveling restrictions and all that. Or not restrictions, but the traveling issues when it comes to a minor league team traveling and all that. So all 3 games are going to be played in Charlotte, even though tomorrow for game 2 or next night for game 2, the Phantoms will be designated the home team. It'll still be all played in Charlotte. But it's a best of 3 series. Phantoms are now up 1 game to none. They win in game 2. They've won the series. They'll move on to the second round of the playoffs, which will be interdivisional as well. I think it's Providence who got a first round bye, the Providence Bruins. I think that's who the winner will face. And then from there, they would go on to play the conference final, which would be the divisional playoff winner from the Northern Division. And then from there, they would go on to play in the Calder Cup final against the Western Division, the Western Conference champions. So it's very interesting to see this, that the Phantoms, who had actually, if you weren't watching, a pretty decent year. And that's, of course, all the young Flyers. All the young Flyers of tomorrow are playing on that team. Or not all of them, but a lot of them. And if you have an opportunity, especially now, it looks like potentially they could be moving on to round 2. Please go and check out a game up in Allentown. 1, it's cheap, and 2, it's really good fun hockey. It's always been really good fun hockey. And when the Phantoms are in the playoffs, it's even better. So the Phantoms are on their way, battling for a Calder Cup. They're up now 1 game to nothing in their first round playoff matchup against the Charlotte Checkers, who, by the way, are the NHL affiliate of not the Carolina Hurricanes. No, you would think that's who they are, but they're not. They are actually affiliated with the Florida Panthers. That's right. The Hurricanes are affiliated with the Chicago Wolves. That's right. Why is that the case? Why isn't it the Blackhawks? I don't know. The Blackhawk affiliate are the Rockford Razorbacks. So yes, I can't explain it to you folks, and I don't want to explain it to you. That's just the way it is. Take it up with the AHL. But the Phantoms are on their way. And you know what? There's hockey in the spring to watch in the Delaware Valley. So please, if you have the opportunity, go ahead and check out the Phantoms. It is definitely worth the price of admission. So there's your Flyers minute here on the program. Maybe one of the last times we talk about the Flyers or about hockey, if of course the Panthers don't advance. But I will definitely keep you updated on the status of the Panthers as they navigate their way through the Calder Cup playoffs, as well as, of course, I will keep you. And then a lot of people have asked me, Matty B, the NHL playoffs have begun. They actually began tonight, or last night, actually, on Monday. And I said, yes, I know. And they're like, well, who do you think? And I'm like, I don't care. I really don't. Flyers are not in it. I'm not going to watch it. I'll keep an eye on it, but I'm not going to watch it. I think I watched a little bit of the Dallas game last night against Minnesota, which was pretty good. But if the Flyers are not involved, why do I care? So, the NHL playoffs, which are awesome. It's an awesome time of year. Ain't nothing like NHL playoff hockey. But when the Flyers are not involved, man, I just can't get going with it. So, yes, the NHL playoffs are in full swing. The NBA playoffs are in full swing. The AHL playoffs are in full swing. And then that, of course, leads me to my next topic, and that is your fighting Philadelphia Phillies, because they are in full swing too, folks. 6-10, or I should say 7-10 as we speak right now. Things aren't looking too good as they're battling the Chicago White Sox in game 2 of their doubleheader tonight. Currently, it's 3-0 White Sox in the bottom of the 7th, and they're threatening. But a lot of the talk around town is, what has gone wrong with this team, and is it time to push the panic button, and is it time to get all hands on deck, or what's the fix, or are we on our way to a disappointing season in 2023? And I, of course, have my own opinion to that, and I will exercise that opinion right now. 7-10 through 17 games is not the greatest thing in the world. It's not the worst either. It's not the worst place to be. If you take a look at where the Phillies are as a team right now, they're besieged with injury. They've lost 2 players. They've lost 65, 70 home runs out of their lineup. They're down 2 starting pitchers. They have a bullpen that's a little unproven. They've had to take some resources out of that bullpen, put it in the starting rotation. And all that, there's still only 3 games under 500. So is it great? No. Is it where you expect the defending National League champions to be 17 games into the season? No. but it could be a lot worse based on the situations and the circumstances around this team right now. Now, there are some telltale sites because I followed this team and I had the privilege of following this team for the Edge of Philly Sports on the Fightins final. And last season, this was exactly where we were at 17 games into the season. We were 7-10. With all the same issues that were bothering the Phillies this season, were bothering the Phillies last season, with the exception of a couple. And this is what gives me concern is that the couple, the nuances of the issues of this year versus those issues from last season. I'm going to get into those right now. What was not really a problem last season for the Phillies at this point of the season was their pitching. Their pitching was actually very, very good. They were definitely getting good starts from Wheeler and Nola. We haven't really gotten that. Got a pretty decent one from Wheeler tonight. Nola was better yesterday or Sunday. He was better. He got 14 runs too. But we were getting consistent right out of the gate, good starts from Wheeler and Nola. We were also getting at the time pretty decent starts from Ranger, pretty decent starts from Kyle Gibson as well. That's right. You guys forget about that. But early in the season, Kyle Gibson was pitching. He was pitching well. And that was pretty much kind of carrying us. They were striking out a lot of batters. They weren't walking anybody, and they were going deep into games, thus lowering the bullpen's expectations of 2022. This season has been quite the opposite. We have not gotten good starting pitching consistently. We've gotten a good start here, 4 bad starts, a good start there, and you know the drill. We've also gotten a team that has issues with walks. The Phillies are giving out a historic amount of walks to start the season right now. They did not give up any walks in game 1 of the doubleheader earlier today. I haven't looked at the box score for game 2, but heading into the game this evening, the Philly pitching staff had given up 69 walks through 16 games, and now it's 69 walks through 17 games, and it'll be through 18 games after this. But 69 walks through 16 games, which is about 4 a game. That's huge, man. That is huge, and that to me is a telling sign of where our problems are with this team. We don't have the pitching depth that we had a year ago, and that is due to injury. That is also due, in my mind, is a bad plan by Dave Dombrowski coming out of the spring and not going out and signing a 5th starter or even a 4 and a 5, type C free agents on the cheap, and then relying on Ranger Suarez and Andrew Painter to potentially make the starting lineup. Rotation. I did not agree to that. I thought it was a foolhardy plan, and it has come back to bite the Phillies on the ass a little bit. But the pitching has not been good. Starting rotation variety. The bullpen has also not been good as well. They've been struggling as a group. A lot of that has been situational. A lot of that has been the fact that they've been called on to bail out the starting rotation a lot early this season, which has caused them to be gassed a little bit. And then another interesting point that I heard, I think it was Ruben Amaro make today. Or no, it was Kevin Stocker, actually. He made this point that during spring training, a lot of the relievers were not put in positions that they would normally see in the regular season during spring training, because at the time of the WBC, most major league players, quality major league players, were no longer with their teams. They were, with their countries. So these these pitchers were not getting real quality, situational opportunities during the spring. They were getting a lot of coming in, nobody on, nobody out, pitching a 1-2-3 inning against the minor league teams, minor league players, and then getting right off and then moving on. So they weren't really kind of given real world type pitching opportunities during the spring. And I can buy that to a certain degree. Obviously, that's what you want to work on during the spring. And that could definitely be some of the Phillies' problems as well. But I think the main issue with the Phillies and their bullpen has just been overuse. Plain and simple overuse. And then the other issue, to me, that has really has been the glaring issue has been the bench. We just don't have anything of quality coming off that bench. And that is due to injury, yes, but more by design. I mean, Dave Dombrowski knew the issues or limitations of this bench. He knew the limitations of Bryce Harper coming into the season, and he did not, in my opinion, properly address the bench. There is no power on that bench right now. They got nothing. They got because everyone's got to play. Now, it was Reese Hoskins relied upon to be part of the bench situation, meaning he plays and there's another bat that can sit and wait, potentially a Derek Hall. I don't know. But to me, I don't think the bench was ever adequately staffed or positioned for success going forward in this season. I just didn't like the way the bench was made up. So you couple the bench, you coupled in the starting pitching, and obviously it's the pitching that's the main issue. It's the pitching that's the main concern. They're giving up. They're giving up way too many walks. They're giving up, but they're striking people out. They're giving up a lot of hits. They're giving up a ton of runs, and that's really what it's come down to. The bats of the Phillies are starting to wake up. The bats of the Phillies are starting to situationally hit. I believe their runners, their batting average, or they were something like 6 for 17 in game one of today's doubleheader with runners in scoring position, which is a very pleasant surprise. That's we got to get that stat going up. That might come around, and I'm sure it will come around. But pitching to me has been the main issue for this team heading into game 18 today. And whether or not this team is going to get better, Ranger Suarez is very close to making his return, which would then push Matt Strahm back into the bullpen. Bailey Falter, who I've never been high on as a long-term solution in the starting rotation, ran into some trouble early tonight as he's pitching game 2, but he's been pretty locked down up to this point. Lasted 7 innings. I can't really, I can't ask for more from him, and that's what we want. So I don't know if Bailey Falter is long term for this rotation. I don't like that plan of Bailey Falter being long term of in the solution of this rotation. But Ranger coming back is going to provide not only some help in the rotation, but some needed bullpen help as we send Matt Strahm back there. So better days are coming, I hope, with the rotation. Dave checks in with this kid Clemens. His bat is not so good. He can play first pretty well. Cody Clemens was brought here, Dave, obviously to be a utility type fringe MLB player. I think obviously he's been thrown into a situation that he's not necessarily should be in a perfect world. He should be down in Lehigh right now. But because of the injury to Hoskins and then now their injury to Derek Hall, obviously he's been called into play a little bit more at first, which will kind of lead me to my next point here in a second. I think he's okay to have around, but the problem is we're going to ask him to take meaningful bats during meaningful games lots of times throughout the season. And I don't know if that's what he's ready for. So, more to follow on Cody Clemens. Obviously with the pedigree there and all that, it's pretty cool to see Roger Clemens walking around the ballpark and all, but whether or not he can actually deliver consistently night after night, I don't think he can. I could be wrong, and he may get his chance to do that, but I don't see that as a long-term thing. I think that's just a gut reaction, a knee-jerk reaction by the Phillies to get a body up here. I just can't see Cody Clemens as the long-term solution to our first base issues until Derek Hall gets back, which leads me to my next point. I guess recently, within the last few days, Bryce Harper has gone to Phillies management and asked to learn how to play first base in order to assist this team in any possible way that he can, which is cool. I appreciate that. And I think it shows, again, I mentioned this to Al. I was on the final a few nights ago, and I mentioned this to Al, that it's a testament to Bryce Harper's character. It's a testament to Bryce Harper, the man, that he would, want to learn a new position right off the bat and just get in this lineup any which way we can to help this team. And I'm all for it, if that's what's going to mean helping the team. But obviously, when you're looking at Bryce Harper, we seem to forget the man, he dealt with a pretty significant injury. He got Tommy John surgery. Now, granted, he's not a pitcher and he's not rehabbing the same way, and I understand that. And it doesn't affect him the same as it would a pitcher. But still, I mean, he's 5 months removed from surgery. And now we're talking about teaching him a whole new position. He's down there today taking live BP. They're saying now maybe about a month from now, late May, So that would put him at around 6 months post-surgery. Is that necessarily the minimal time it is for the recovery of an injury like that? I don't know. Again, I realize it's not a pitcher, uh, and his rehab in a whole different way. But I get it, and I get it and all that. I understand, and it would provide a little bit more, wiggle room on the roster right now, as we can move people in and out of that DH position. But listen, as far as the first base problem goes, I knew this was going to happen, man. I really knew it. I knew this was going to be a problem when we traded Logan O'Hoppe. And yes, okay, you can get that's going to be that's my new hill this year. It's the Logan O'Hoppe hill. All right. I was totally not for that trade. I thought the Phillies were giving up an asset as a catcher. You can never have enough catching on a Major League Baseball team. That's a position that literally JT could be done tomorrow, and we have absolutely no backfill for him. And in this situation, in this season, the way it worked out, JT Realmuto could be your everyday first baseman right now, and Logan O'Hoppe could be catching. And all of this would be a mute conversation right now. All of this would be a mute point about teaching Bryce Harper how to play first base, potentially rushing him back so that he can play first base. All that would be mute, because isn't JT supposed to be going to first base eventually anyway as he ages and gets older? And obviously, he's got the experience to play the position. It would have been the perfect way to go to do things. I understand Brandon Marsh has been pretty good. He's definitely fulfilled a need in center field. But boy, would it be nice to have Logan O'Hoppe still on this baseball team, because he could be catching right now, and JT could be playing first, and we would not be talking about any of this Bryce Harper playing first base stuff. But holistically, it's cool, and I appreciate Bryce Harper for stepping up and being that teammate, man, being that leader, and wanting to do whatever he can to help this team out. So 7-10, Phillies are threatening. It's late. It's the eighth inning. Ain't looking good. They're down 3-0. Looking like they might get a split here tonight. But 7-10, it could be worse. It could be better, but it could be worse. Season is definitely not over. We're only 3 weeks in, for God's sakes. Everybody just calm down. But yeah, there's my Phillies point as we trudge through the first month of the baseball season, heading into the dreaded month of May. That's right, folks. You think April was bad. Whew. I don't know, man. I don't know if I can go through another May like last year. Boy. All right. It's going to bring me to my final point of the night, and it was the point that I'm going to wait for to the end to bring up, because that's how I roll. And that's, of course, the biggest sports story in this town right now, as the Philadelphia Eagles. The Philadelphia Eagles. Finally did it, right? They finally did the unthinkable. This wasn't the unthinkable, but they finally signed Jalen Hurts to that mega deal, the deal that everybody was waiting to see. What was it going to look like? Was it going to break all kinds of records? Was it going to be that type of contract? What was Howie Roseman going to do? Were they even going to sign him this offseason? Were they going to let it ride out? Was he going to be the lame duck quarterback in 2023? Was he going to be all those things? Well, the answer came yesterday out of nowhere, because it kind of went quiet, and then all of a sudden, boom, it breaks down. And kind of just to give you the bones about it, right? He signs a 5-year, $255 million contract. Woo-hoo, man. The signing bonus was $23 million. His average salary hit's going to be about $51 million. It's a full no trade clause, which I believe it's the first time the Eagles have ever offered that. And it is a signing. Yeah. So what? I mean, this was the deal that everybody was looking for, right? This was the deal. This was it. And he set the bar. I believe it's the most. He's the richest quarterback in the history of the NFL. And he signed the highest contract in sports history. And good for him. Obviously, good for Jalen Hurts. He comes from he gets here under a lot of scrutiny. His selection in 2020 was scrutinized from the very beginning. And he was put in a situation where he had to replace at the time, franchise quarterback. And he's done the most with his opportunity, and he deserves it. But of course, I'm going to look at the other side of the coin because that's what I do because I hate Howie Roseman, and I'm gonna look at the every side or the other side of that coin. I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad move. I definitely not saying it's a bad move, but we've been down this road just a couple of years ago, right? And look at the situation, somewhat eerily similar, right? You have a quarterback second full year. Now, Jalen Hurts was in his third year technically last season, but it was his second full season as a starter. He led the team to the Super Bowl. Now, granted, in Carson's situation, he didn't get an opportunity to play in the Super Bowl, and Jalen had himself a hell of a Super Bowl. He was definitely not the reason why the Eagles lost that game. But then, he got hurt. Carson Wentz gets hurt in his second year. Jalen got dinged up. Apparently, he had ankle surgery a couple of days ago to clean out some hardware, whatever that means. I didn't know he had messed up his ankle. Obviously, we all knew about the shoulder. Um, you know, there's some eerie similarities to the Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz situations, and I am not sitting here saying that it's going to work out the same way, and I'm not. And they're two totally different types of quarterbacks, two totally different types of people under two totally different types of situations. So I'm not going to sit here and say that that's going to work out that way. Absolutely not. But what if? What if it does? What if next season Jalen Hurts comes out? Now, mind you, and Dave asked a great question here. Let me put it up. He's like, when does Hurts' contract start next season? Since he's not, no, so Dave, his actual extension will start in 2024. He will play out the final year of his rookie deal. But what happens if, next season is not quite as explosive as 2022 was? And what happens if he gets clipped or if he goes down? And I don't wish anything bad about him, but what happens if all this stuff kind of goes off the rails again? Is it going to be as easy to get rid of Jalen as it was Carson? Don't forget, there's a little bit of nuance here with Jalen's contract. It's a full no trade clause. Now, I don't know if that means. I believe that means that he can only be traded to teams that he approves it. The Eagles cannot trade him anywhere they want, or they can't trade him at all. I mean, ooh, they'd have to release him and then get nothing for him. So, it's a gamble, right? And I'm not saying that Howie did the wrong thing. I'm not. He there was a need there. There's a window here that the Eagles believe that they have, and Jalen Hurts is potentially the type of quarterback or the quarterback that's going to take him through that window. I don't think that there's anybody that has really heartburn about this, and to include me, I don't. I just hope it works out better than it did the first time or the last time, I should say, because I know, God forbid, it doesn't work out, and I have to start talking negative about Howie Roseman again, and I really don't want to do that because I love Howie. We're such good friends, but no. So the question again goes: was this the best deal? Now, this is obviously the deal that makes him the richest quarterback for now, and then that'll change because now that this contract is the bar setter, right? This is the contract now that Joe Burrow is going to look at and say, yeah, get it up there. So, but for right now, Jalen Hurts can enjoy the fact that he is the richest quarterback in the history of the National Football League, and worth every penny of it at this point, based on what he's done. But the situations around this are, to me, a little eerily similar to what Carson Wentz went through. And I pray to God that it doesn't work out the same way, because I don't have the strength to go through another Carson Wentz situation with a quarterback here. And I don't think it's going to, as I mentioned, two different quarterbacks, two different types of people. But the Eagles got their guy, and they got him for good or for bad for the next 5 years. And Dave asked me, what's Lamar thinking right now? I don't know what Lamar's thinking right now, Dave. Potentially he's thinking that he's not as good as he thinks he is, because Lamar Jackson's, I don't know. But you're right. He's trying to hold out for bigger money. Hey, He's thinking that he messed up. He's thinking that he took the money. This is what you do, a player, owner, team. This is all a gamble. You think you get the best deal, and then you find out a year later that you don't have the best deal. You think you got the best situation. You find out a year later you're not in the best situation, and it's just a matter of how much of a man you are to deal with it, and to get to a position where you can get leverage again. And that's called life. That's not there's nothing different. That's life. Sometimes you get leverage in life. Sometimes you have leveraged against you. It ebbs and it flows. So Lamar's probably thinking he screwed up. Lamar's probably thinking like, you know what, maybe I should hire Jalen's all-female representation team, which I would love to have that too. Um, Very attractive young ladies, by the way. Not to say that they're not taking away from their business sense, but boy. Anyway, uh, I don't know. Maybe Lamar's just feeling like he got screwed. I don't know, but Jalen Hurts is your guy. And offensively speaking, as we gear up for the NFL draft, I think the Eagles are in a position to where they may be throwing out one of the best, if not the best, offenses ever in the history of the league. And obviously, with the draft coming up here in about a week, we're going to find out what the Eagles really think of their offense versus what they really think of their defense, as they exercise their 2 first-round draft picks, their second round pick, their third round pick, and their 2 7th-round picks, to kind of plus up this team. I personally think the Eagles are going to go with Bijan Robinson. I think he is definitely, if he's there at 10, there's no way the Eagles bypass him. I think the Eagle philosophy in 2023 is going to be pure and simple: score more than the opponent. I don't think I think the defense is going to take a step back. I think it's not going to be as opportunistic. It's going to be a year older. Some of these players, i.e. Fletcher Cox, i.e. Brandon Graham, i.e. Darius Slay, they're just getting too old. And this might be the wrong thing to do, having them come back for one more year. I don't know. But I think the philosophy is going to be, we got to score more than them. And Bijan Robinson would provide that. He'd be that guy for us. He'd be that Saquon. He'd be that Zeke. He'd be that guy for us, and we would have the elite running back, and they would score more, a lot more. It'd be a lethal offense, and it would take a lot of pressure off of your new $255 million man, as he doesn't necessarily have to get involved in any kind of he can limit the hitting that he'll take. So I'm definitely down for Bijan Robinson being selected by the Eagles at 10, and then maybe going after the rest of your draft picks. And I'm not even saying trade out. I think they keep all of them, and I think they select all their picks. They're going to have a lot of picks. They already do have a lot of picks for the compensation of losing a lot of free agents this year. They got a lot of those picks for next season. Draft looks a little bit, it's like 11 picks right now. I think with the 6 picks we have, we take them all and go Bijan first round, and then go defensive with everybody else, and just try to get a better product on the field. But more to follow, of course, on the Edge of Philly Sports Network. As I mentioned, we have you guys covered for all your drafting needs and everything else. This is what's going on the network this week. Of course, this is Tuesday, and we're talking some Philly sports here. Me and you, we got some chalk talk. Fighting's final will be following me. I just got word through Dave that the Phillies have lost 3-0 to split the doubleheader with the White Sox. So 3-0, the Phillies lose tonight. I believe Pat and Mike are going to be talking some Fighting's final here in a little bit, so make sure you're tuning in for them. And then the rest of what's happening here on the network all week long. Don't forget also, if you're in Delco and you need to get to a bar, and you need, more specifically in Ridley Park, because again, I don't know what you'd be doing in Delco, but if you are, head over to Ridley Park and go to Dolan's, 24 East Sellers Ave in Ridley Park for Quizzo music, great times, memorabilia giveaways, and you never know who's going to walk through the front door at Dolan's. Make sure you head over there and give them a checkout. And if you're looking to get to a game or a concert or a theater event, look no further than Sherry's Ticket Town for great prices, no hidden fees. www.sherrystickets.com. Family owned and operated since 1946. Save additional 10% when you enter the promo code EOP10. And don't forget our main man, Dave Cherry. Workman's compensation, motor vehicle accidents, personal injury, and criminal law. 610-565-0300. tell Dave that Matty B and Talking Philly Sports with Matty B sent you, and he'll take good care of you. And don't forget, if you want to travel with like the pros, look no further than Philly Sports trips. I don't got a slide, but I've said it so many times I can just rattle it off. Make sure you travel with Philly Sports trips. They got a lot of stuff coming up. They got the draft down there in Kansas City. Make sure you head over to their website. Check out everything they have to offer. Got the 2-4 coming up in Denver on May 13th. Check out some Union soccer and some Phillies baseball. And they have a bunch of other stuff happening this summer. Get on over to phillysportstrips.com. Check out all they have to offer as well. And our draft week coverage here on the Edge of Philly Sports will be like you've never seen before. We're already starting to put up a lot of articles, so make sure you're heading over to the webpage at eopsports.com and checking out everything that we're offering for the draft. And then we got you covered on the draft week. More to follow in detail of what we got coming up, but there's going to be a lot of stuff, live shows, a lot of check-in type stuff that we're going to be doing during draft week. So be on the lookout for all that. As we, there's nobody that I've ever seen that covers the draft like EOP. So make sure, and I was part of it last year. Going to be part of it in a little bit of a different capacity this year. So make sure you're checking out everything that we have to offer here, not only for the NFL draft, man, but for everything. But folks, that is going to wrap me up tonight. Again, thank you for welcoming me back from a week off. I appreciate it. It was a great vacation, as I said. And once again, thanks for all the great sentiments and thoughts and prayers for me and my family as we went through a real tough time after losing our dog. It was hard, but I want to thank you all out there for being very kind and compassionate to me and my family through our time. And I won't forget that. And you guys are great. So until we talk again, that is the news, and I'm out of here.